Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, Part 6, in which all our protagonists find the thin veneer of tranquility in their lives, tested by family and friends, with farcical and tragic consequences. Chapter 26. In September, Levine moved to Moscow for Kitty's confinement. He had already spent a whole month in Moscow doing nothing when Sergei Ivanovich, who owned an estate in Kashin province and took great interest in the question of the forthcoming elections, got ready to attend them. He invited his brother, who had a ballot for the Seleznev district, to go with him. Besides that, Levine had business in Kashin, of the utmost importance for his sister, who lived abroad, to do with settling the matter with the trusteeship and obtaining a quittance. Levine was still undecided, but Kitty, who saw that he was bored in Moscow, advised him to go, and, without asking, ordered him a nobleman's uniform that cost 80 rubles, and the 80 rubles spent on the uniform were the main thing that made Levine go. He went to Kashin. Levine had been in Kashin for 6 days already, attending the meetings every day and busying himself with his sister's affairs, which did not go well. The marshals were all occupied with the elections, and it was impossible to settle the very simple matter which depended on the trusteeship. The other business, obtaining the money, met with obstacles in the same way. After long efforts to have the freeze lifted, the money was ready to be paid, but the notary, a most obliging man, could not issue the check because the chairman's signature was needed, and the chairman, without handing over his duties, was attending the session. All this bustling, going about from place to place, talking with very kind, good people who well understood the unpleasantness of the petitioner's position, but were unable to help him, all this tension, while producing no results, gave Levine a painful feeling similar to that vexing impotence one experiences in dreams when one tries to use physical force. He felt it often, speaking with his good-natured attorney. This attorney did everything possible, it seemed, and strained all his mental powers to get Levine out of the quandary. "Try this," he said, more than once. "Go to this place and that place," and the attorney would make a whole plan for getting round the fatal principle that was hindering everything. Then he would add at once, "They'll hold it up anyway, but try it." And Levine tried, visited, went. Everybody was kind and courteous, but it always turned out that what had been got round re-emerged in the end, and again barred the way. In particular, it was offensive when Levine simply could not understand with whom he was struggling, who profited from the fact that his case never came to an end. This no one seemed to know. The attorney did not know either. If Levine could have understood it as he understood why he could not get to the ticket window at the station otherwise than by waiting in line, he would not have felt offended and vexed. But no one could explain to him why the obstacles he encountered in his case existed. However, Levine had changed greatly since his marriage. He was patient, and if he did not understand why it was all arranged that way, he said to himself that he could not judge without knowing everything, that it probably had to be that way, and he tried not to be indignant. Now, being present at the elections and taking part in them, he tried in the same way not to condemn, not to argue, but to understand as well as he could this business which honest and good people, whom he respected, took up with such seriousness and enthusiasm. Since marrying, so many new, serious aspects have been revealed to him, which formerly, because of this light-minded attitude towards them, had seemed insignificant, that he assumed and sought a serious meaning in the business of the elections as well. Sergei Ivanovitch explained to him the meaning and importance of the revolution that was supposed to take place at the elections. The provincial marshal of nobility, in whose hands the law placed so many important social matters, trusteeships, the same from which Levine was now suffering, the huge funds of the nobility, high schools for girls and boys, the military school, public education as prescribed by the new legislation, and finally the Zemstvo, the provincial marshal. Snetkov was a man of the old noble caste who had run through a huge fortune, a good man, honest in his way, but who failed completely to understand the demands of the new time. He always took the side of the nobility in everything, directly opposed the spread of public education, and to the Zemstvo, which was supposed to have such enormous significance, attributed a class character. It was necessary that he be replaced by a fresh, modern, practical man, completely new, and that things be conducted in such a way as to gain from the rights granted to the nobility, not as nobility, but as an element of the Zemstvo, every possible benefit of self-government. In the rich Kashin province, which always led the others in everything, such forces had now accumulated that, if matters were conducted properly, it could serve as an example for other provinces, and for the whole of Russia, and therefore the whole matter was of great significance. The plan was that Snetkov be replaced as marshal of nobility by either Zvyazhsky, or better still by Nevedotsky, a former professor, a remarkably intelligent man, and a great friend of Sergei Ivanovitch. The assembly was opened by the governor, who delivered a speech to the noblemen saying that they should elect people to posts not out of partiality, but by merit, and for the good of the fatherland, and that he hoped the honorable nobility of Kashin would fulfill their duty religiously, as they had done in previous elections, thus justifying the high trust of the monarch. Having finished his speech, the governor left the room, and the noblemen noisily and animatedly, some even rapturously, followed him and surrounded him just as he was putting on his coat and talking amicably with the provincial marshal. Levine, wishing to understand everything and not miss anything, stood there in the crowd and heard the governor say, "Please tell Marya Ivanovna that my wife is very sorry, but she must go to the orphanage." And after that the gentlemen cheerfully took their coats and went to the cathedral. In the cathedral, Levine, lifting his hand and repeating the words of the archpriest along with the others, swore with the most terrible oaths to fulfill all the governor's hopes. Church services always had an effect on him, and when he uttered the words, "I kiss the cross," and turned to look at the crowd of young and old people repeating the same thing, he felt himself moved. On the second and third days the discussions concerned the matters of the funds raised by the nobility, and of the girls' school, which, as Sergei Ivanovitch explained, were of no importance, and Levine, occupied with his business, did not follow them. On the fourth day the auditing of the provincial accounts lay on the provincial table, and here, for the first time, a confrontation took place between the new party and the old. The commission entrusted with verifying the accounts reported to the assembly that all was in order. The provincial marshal rose to thank the gentlemen for their trust, and waxed tearful. The nobility loudly cheered him and shook his hand, but at that moment one of the gentlemen from Sergei Ivanovitch's party said he had heard that the commission had not audited the accounts, considering auditing an insult to the provincial marshal. One of the members of the commission imprudently confirmed it. Then one small, very young-looking, but very venomous gentleman started to say that it would probably be a pleasure for the provincial marshal to give a report of the accounts, and that the excessive delicacy of the members of the commission deprived him of that moral satisfaction. Then the members of the commission withdrew their statement, and Sergei Ivanovich began to demonstrate logically that the accounts must be acknowledged as either audited or not audited, and developed this dilemma in detail. Some speaker from the opposing party objected to Sergei Ivanovich. Then Zviazhsky spoke, and then again the venomous gentleman. The debate went on for a long time, and ended with nothing. Levine was surprised that they argued about it for so long, especially since, when he asked Sergei Ivanovich if he thought the money had been embezzled, Sergei Ivanovich answered, "Oh, no. He's an honest man, but this old-fashioned, patriarchal, family-like way of running the affairs of the nobility has to be shaken up." On the 5th day came the election of district marshals. In some districts this was a very stormy day. The Seleznev district, Zviazhsky was elected unanimously without a vote, and there was dinner that day at his house. If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe, and return tomorrow for the next chapter.